Good morning, Leominsterites. Welcome back to Representing Leominster. This is our 9th episode, can you believe it? And we will be running a show a little bit differently today. You may have noticed that I am not Natalie Higgins, but some days I am the closest second to it. Some of you may know me, and for those of you who don't, my name is Taylor Landry, and I am Natalie Higgins' legislative aide. You may also recognize me from various pizza shops or bars as a local bartender around the area, or you may know me because my father is Bob Landry. He's one of the talented music teachers that Leominster has, and I've performed since I was little. So this episode is going to run a little bit differently. We normally host 2 different people from various, local offices, but today we have a very special guest, our own state representative, Natalie Higgins. She's been elected now as our state representative for a year. And we wanted to take this time to reflect upon the trials and tribulations that we've went through the past year. I have some questions that I've been prepared to ask her, and she's probably expecting some of them, but let's welcome Natalie on to her own show, Representing Leominster. Thank you, Natalie, for joining me today.
Thanks, Taylor, for taking over the host gig. We should do this all the time. I didn't even have to prepare.
It's a lot of stress. I don't know how you do it all the time, honestly. It's quite the experience. So my first question for you today, looking back on your first year as state rep, is it what you expected? I mean, tell me about it.
Yeah, so I think yes and no. So I had talked to a lot of people who have done this job and had them prepare me, especially as I was on the campaign trail and after I was elected. So I had ideas that the first year don't expect to understand anything.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I thought by now we would have our feet on the ground, and it seems like every time we think we do, they get kicked out from under us. Mm-hmm. But that's okay. I'm excited. And I think the hardest thing and the thing that I couldn't really comprehend until I was in it was figuring out how to do the scheduling and how to balance being in Leominster and being in Boston at the State House.
I mean, you're only one person, so.
so it's always helpful to have you filling in when we can't be in 2 places at once. But also kind of the amount of information we're just getting on any day. I know you feel
it's a lot.
With that.
Yeah, there's a lot of information that we get. So, I mean, I'm sure you could only prepare so much.
Yeah, so for folks who don't know this, and this is a fun behind-the-scenes fact, we only get 500 megabytes of email space. And I never realized how hard that was to keep within it with just how many emails we're getting in a day.
And if they have attachments, important documents, video documents, audio documents.
So Taylor and I are always seeing that bar go over to the yellow and going, oh no, we need to delete some things from our email so that we can actually send emails.
Mm-hmm. So another question for you. What are some things that you have done or learned that most surprised you?
I think most surprised me, I'm the same person, but now with this title, some people maybe are like more hesitant to get in touch with me or to reach out to me. And I get a lot of calls that start with, I don't want to bother you, but.
Mm-hmm. But it's your job.
And trying to figure out how to get people to be more comfortable about just making the call. If we can't help with our office, we usually can point folks in the right direction. Mm-hmm. So I think that has been the hardest thing for me to transition. Like, I just think I'm still a Leominster resident with a really awesome job. I get to go to work every day, educating folks around the state about how great Leominster is, and making sure that Leominster has the resources that it needs. And I'm super thankful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is so cool. So what are some accomplishments since you've been elected that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah. So my background is in policy and the law, so I've got to say I've been really excited about some of the legislation that we've been able to pass, the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, the Access Act to make sure that women and families have access to affordable birth control. And for folks who might not realize this, I actually got my first piece of legislation into the criminal justice reform package. And so the criminal justice reform bill that is still being negotiated between the House and the Senate has done some really important changes to criminal justice and making sure that folks who need treatment for addiction are getting the right kind of diversion programs for veterans, for other at-risk populations.
And that's a pretty big deal that they took up the whole criminal justice reform, right? Can you explain that a little bit to some people who might not?
So a lot of big pieces of legislation kind of come up every maybe decade or so. We'll take one big crack because we also have to see how do those changes play out and see where are those gaps still. So there was a CSG report council on state governments that looked at criminal justice reform, and it looked a lot of the front end. How do we do diversion training and diversion programs to keep people out of the legal system? And I've done a lot of work. My focus when I went to law school wasn't in criminal justice. It was more in family and estate planning. So I've gotten to do a lot of learning about kind of how does the criminal justice system work and where are those gaps and how do we really make sure that our community members have second chances.
That's awesome. Now, you said that you passed something in that criminal justice reform. Tell me about that.
So I've been a rape crisis counselor for a decade. I trained at Every Woman's Center at UMass Amherst when I was in college. And I worked as a teen counselor at Pathways for Change. And coming into the legislature, I knew I wanted to file legislation in the worlds that I felt really comfortable in and had a lot of work experience. So it was public higher education advocacy for my work with PNOM and programming for sexual assault survivors and domestic violence survivors.
And that's smart. Go with what you know.
Yeah. So I didn't want to set a huge bar. I wanted to be in worlds that I felt very, very well versed in, and I didn't want to take on things that would have been too big for me. So we had this bill. I filed a bill with Representative Carmine Gentile out from the Metro West area to track sexual assault kits. So when someone goes to the hospital after a sexual assault and has, it's nicknamed a lot of times a rape kit, and has an evidence kit collected, tells the story, what happened, and has a bunch of evidence collected, their clothes, oftentimes hair samples. It's really
invasive,
intense.
I could imagine.
4 to 6 hours in an emergency room. When I was a rape crisis counselor, I used to go and sit and be an advocate and just help someone get through the emotional part of that. And I was always really, really amazed that we were able to do that and provide those services.
I'm
to
sure that was a
survivors.
rewarding yet difficult experience at times.
So Massachusetts should be really proud that we've taken some steps on reducing the backlog. You might see stories about how there are thousands of untested rape kits hanging out in warehouses. We don't have quite that problem in Massachusetts. Our kits are recorded, but if you're not reporting it to the police, oftentimes your kit isn't tested. And we know, especially with the whole #MeToo and a lot of survivors coming forward, that the first response isn't always to report it to the police. That might not be the safest thing to do. They might not be emotionally ready.
You could be going through tough things in your life. You might not want to, make that step and really, that's a lot. That's a big process.
So Rep. Gentile and I kind of figured if we can track our pizza from the oven to the delivery car to our house, we should be able to track a rape kit. And we should be able to have a survivor call and say, is it in the medical lab? Is it back at the police station? Is it in this other warehouse? I just want to know where it is so that when I'm ready, I feel comfortable that it's there waiting for me, because the statute of limitations on rape are 15 years. So you have some time to make a decision. And the exciting part, and why we've always pushed folks to go and have at least the rape kit done, is you collect all the evidence within 72 hours. Whether or not you're ready to go forward with that, that's all there. And so kind of the number two big thing that I'm so thrilled about is it's not common for a freshman representative to get a piece of legislation through in their first year. There's 160 of us. There are a lot of really great ideas. And so when we realized that there was an opportunity that this amendment could pass, it was a bipartisan amendment led by both us as Democrats and Republicans, including the minority leader, Brad Jones. We were really excited. So we went to House leadership and said, hey, this is a really good amendment. Do we think we can get this passed? And they said, yeah, we do. You have 4 hours to write your maiden speech.
That was a crazy day. I remember that day. That was crazy.
So it took me a minute to contain that emotion that I was getting this bill passed. And for folks who didn't get a chance to see my maiden speech, it's I think up on our Facebook. While I've worked in the movement for 10 years, I'm also a sexual assault survivor. So it was an opportunity for me to share my story with my new colleagues. We've only known each other for a year, at that point 11 months, and say, for me at the time of my assault, I was in law school. I needed to make sure that I had the kit done, that I was healthy and safe, and all of that was okay. I was not in a place where I thought pressing charges or pursuing charges was the right thing.
Yeah.
I had to finish law school. That was my priority. I wanted to make sure that I got through that, and I didn't want anything getting in the way of that. And for me, thankfully, for having been a rape crisis counselor for so long, I knew how to surround myself with the right kind of people and support system to be able to begin to heal from that. But I had the kit there in case I changed my mind and I wanted to pursue that. And I know, hearing from a lot of colleagues, that my maiden speech was a little untraditional and maybe a lot more personal than most. But given what's going on at the national level and at the state level around sexual harassment in workplaces, and I'm just unbelievably thankful that we were able to get this really meaningful piece of legislation into the criminal justice reform package, and also that I could share my story on such a big level where I know so many survivors aren't at a place where they're ready to share their story yet.
That's wonderful. Congratulations. By the way, I don't think I've been able to say that to you yet for getting that passed. So we've also had to go through the budget season.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So folks know I ran a nonprofit that did a lot of advocacy, especially around the budget, because public higher education affordability depends a lot on how much state funds public higher ed institutions get. So I thought I knew the budget. I thought I was going to be like ready to navigate that. I had no idea. Like it was a real learning experience in terms of how much longer the timeline is. The governor puts out his budget in January. We start. My budget meeting with House Ways and Means is scheduled this year for January 30th.
Yeah.
So we have to have our priorities in January figured out.
All your ducks in a row, ready to go in. This is what I need. This is what we want. This is.
We're still having those conversations in February. We take it up in March. The Senate takes it up in April. And then.
And when you say we, it's the House.
The House takes it up in March. The Senate takes it up in April. We go to conference committee in May. Usually it's passed sometime. The agreement in June, hopefully July. We also have vetoes that we have to override. And then another part that I didn't even understand was the governor then has the opportunity, even though we've said, here's where we think the budget should go, to hold that money back or even to cut it through a 9C. It's a certain part of the Mass General Law that allows non-vital funding to be cut. And so for years, a lot of our local district items have been 9C'd and have been cut. And this is the first year. I'm really excited. We worked with the North Central Mass Chamber of Commerce. We're headed over to an event with them right after this to get some money for the Johnny Appleseed Tourism Association. So for folks who aren't familiar, the North Central Mass Chamber of Commerce does work with all of North Central, small businesses and larger businesses. And the JADA, the Johnny Appleseed Tourism Association, does work all over the country to recruit people to come up to North Central Mass and to have their weddings there, just vacation there, come and visit. And it's really great for us. I mean, we have a rich history. We invented the pink lawn flamingo. We're the birthplace of Johnny Appleseed. We should be proud here in Leominster. And people should
Tupperware. You can't forget about Tupperware.
And we should have people coming and visiting us and checking out our community. We have great trails. We have a lot of really awesome green spaces. Fall is great with apples in the trees.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And this is a really great way for folks from outside the community to come in and spend money in our small businesses and create a lot of economic activity. And the work of the Johnny Appleseed Tourism Association has brought so much in tax revenue into our communities from outside folks who have extra cash in their pocket, who are on vacation, who are looking to spend money. And this is a really great way to make sure that we have the extra revenue for our schools, for our emergency service professionals. And so we were really excited. They had gotten $85,000 cut the year before. They had already spent all that money because they thought they had it. And then they found out halfway through the year, you're actually not going to get the money. And we were able to get all $85,000 restored. And Governor Baker just announced last week that he actually is going to release those funds. So
that's so exciting.
They're actually going to be made whole and have that money, and hopefully that will go towards more recruitment of folks coming and learning about Leominster in the future.
Tourism, gotta love it. So among those accomplishments, we've also been able to set up office hours and visit our seniors every Monday. And so tell me a little bit about that. What was that like setting that up? And how has it been since you've set those up? Have you seen a lot of constituents at office hours, things like that?
Yeah, so Taylor knows. So part of this, to remove the veil, is like we're trying to help people fill in about what's going on in the last year. But one of the things that I pledged when I was campaigning, I grew up in a working class family. 9 to 5 government hours didn't work for my parents. They could not access their state representative or their senator in those spaces. So we really wanted to have early morning and evening hours. And so we started with 5:30 to 7 at the Leominster Library. Immediately, they were thrilled to have us come in. And those hours have really flourished. I think we have 3 or 4 people popping in, a lot of people who make appointments to come during that time.
We've only had 1 or 2 times where people haven't come, which is fabulous.
Which is really, really great comparing to hearing from my other colleagues who set up office hours and maybe they're not as well attended. It's been really great to have people coming. And then our morning hours from 7 to 8 a.m. on Fridays have kind of transitioned a little bit. We thought it'd be a really good idea to support local businesses and go to different coffee shops and rotate around the city and be in different wards.
Which was nice for us for a little while to get acquainted with those local businesses and local coffee shops and people who worked there and people who went.
And we got to eat a lot of really great breakfast.
Yes, that's very true.
But I think people were hesitant because we were eating breakfast to come up and like talk to us.
I think you're right.
And because it might have been because I was new, and then because we were changing every week, it was hard for folks without access to social media or my website to keep track of where I was going to be. So we met with some high school students in the AP government class, and they asked, would you be willing to do morning hours at the high school? We're already here. There's going to be students here, teachers here, staff here.
Yeah.
Why don't you just do them here? And I was like, this is great. I met Jen Flanagan, our senator, our former state rep, when she was a new state rep, as a senior in high school. And that was really influential for me. So we've been able to have some really amazing conversations with students, staff, faculty, and with constituents who they can pop in on their way to work. So I've been really excited about that and really happy with how they work. And we also, I did some coffee hours with seniors campaigning, and one of the requests they had was, especially at the high rises, sometimes mobility is difficult, and it's easier for them to get to the community room than to get over to the senior center. So it wasn't enough just to do visits at the senior center and sessions at the senior center, that it would be great to have regular meetings at both of the high rises. So Sunset Towers on Main Street and the Lapierre building on Spruce Street. So the first Monday of the month, generally barring a holiday, we're at the senior center popping in before the Golden Agers meeting, and they let me speak and kind of give an update, and we pick up a lot of constituent cases. And then the second Monday we're at Sunset Towers, and the third Monday we're at Lapierre. And I've just had a really, really great time and some really great conversations. And I think a lot of constituent cases that we wouldn't have picked up otherwise because we just happen to be there. And they go, oh, Natalie, I'm thinking about this thing, and I don't know if you can help with this.
And it's nice because, I mean, both of us being young, I mean, we see the issues that we come across, but we're not going to see the issues that they come across on a day-to-day basis. So it's nice to get that piece in. Other things that, accomplishments, I mean, so constituent cases is a huge part of what we do, or what I do.
Before we get to constituent cases, I think another success and accomplishment is hiring Taylor Landry, because it's been really great. So I wanted someone to work with me who really knew Leominster, who grew up in Leominster and understood and loved this community as much as I did. And so I've been really excited. And because I have the legal background and I only get one staff person, it was kind of that strategy of, okay, how do we separate roles and how do we make this more manageable? And it made sense to hire someone who could handle the constituent services and feel that really well. And we get 10 to 12 calls easy a week.
Yeah.
So we think over the last year, we're still compiling everything. We think over 500 cases that we hopefully have come to some resolution with. Everything hasn't been an unbelievable success.
And we can't always solve every problem.
But usually we can point people in the right direction.
Yeah.
And so I think another surprise and kind of the big accomplishment out of that is how much of a problem housing access and homelessness is in our community. I was aware, but I wasn't aware to the extent, and the number of people living with family or couch surfing or hopping from place to place, and sometimes have permanent housing and then sometimes don't. And so I think those constituent cases, when we can get someone either into shelter or into permanent housing, have been particularly meaningful cases. And those are ones that I was a rape crisis counselor. We got really good at self-care and leaving our work in the office so that it didn't come home with us. The housing cases, I don't know about you, but I can't leave those.
I can't either,
at the
especially
office.
with those past couple cold days that we had when it was under the wind chills, -20, -30 degrees, knowing that there were these people that we have talked to on the phone and said, hey, do you have extra blankets this weekend? Make sure you stay warm. There's these warming shelters, things like that.
And I got a chance
It's
to go and visit and work with the warming center in Leominster that the Unitarian Universalist Church put together, and they helped about a dozen families,
That's
and that's
awesome.
really, really amazing. But a big policy issue that I want to work together, and we're trying to get the congressmen together with the Spanish American Center, Ginny's, and other community partners to talk about how do we deal with this housing crisis. There aren't enough market rate apartments. People can't afford them, and if they can, if their credit score is not perfect, they're not getting that apartment.
Yeah.
How do we solve this? Because a lot of folks can't afford to live in Leominster right now.
It's such a juggle. Are there any other accomplishments that you want to plug before we move on to the next question?
I think the other one, and it's not an accomplishment of mine, I think it's just like my pride in this community, is the number of constituents who have come to my office hours, emailed me about advocacy issues. I don't think I saw how passionate folks in Leominster were, but I've gotten thousands of emails advocating for different bills, different budget items, and just showing up to our community forums this summer.
Yeah, those were
We had
really
these 4 community
wonderful.
forums. We're working on scheduling 2 more on veterans issues and transportation.
Yeah.
Those were the 2 requested. So we did healthcare, education, environment, and the economy already. But that was a test case for us. Like, are people going to show up? Are people going to participate? And people came to the actual event at the library, and people also tuned in online, and we streamed them live, and we tried to our best answer questions that folks had online in real time. So it was a great experiment for us, and I think we're going to continue to try to do that.
I hope that they only grow.
Yeah.
I think they will. I think it'll be a really great resource for the community to have. So another question, in a lighter mood, what are some of the most embarrassing things that you did or happened to you since you've been elected? I know I have a couple ideas of what your answer is going to be, but I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, of course we ask that. So aside from my face going across that screen in the intro, so for folks who don't know me, I'm a little clumsy. I'm tall. I'm 5'10". I was kind of a lanky kid, and my feet got in the way a lot of times. So my biggest fear was falling in the State House. And I got to tell you, I did it within my first year. So I was leaving the chamber. I don't even know what session we were in. We were in a formal session. I'm leaving. I've got my tablet with me. I see Jen Benson from Lunenburg, and I go, hey, Jen, and fall. Flat, all fours, in a dress. I'm just like, I saved that tablet. And so everyone was like, are you okay? Are you okay? I was like, I'm fine. My pride is hurt. So I'm like, okay, we're good. We're done. I did my embarrassing moment.
It happened. It's over with. I don't have to do that again.
And then 3 months ago, I'm at a briefing rally at the Grand Staircase for single payer, and I'm talking to the executive director, and I can't stay very long. I'm like kind of hiding on the side, just chatting with him, finding out about the day. Are people going to come to my office? I turn, and to avoid someone, I turn to like not crash into him, and I walk into a column, a giant column. And the director said he wasn't going to laugh at me until he heard that laugh because Taylor was with me.
I was screeching. It was the funniest thing I have ever seen in my life.
And so about 100 people watched me walk into a column. I got these big glasses. Apparently they don't help all the time.
I think that was my favorite.
Moral of this story, even if you're clumsy, it happens, and you own it, and you just dust yourself off.
Just a friendly reminder that your state rep is just your normal average person who sometimes runs into walls. It's okay. It's great. So what does a day in the life of State Representative Natalie Higgins look like, or a week? I mean,
I don't think there's a typical day.
No, you don't have much control over your schedule, and I know that because I take care of your schedule. So how does that feel to not, I don't know, what's that like?
So I was leaving Phenom, where I was a solo executive director of a really large, large geographic area nonprofit and was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm just representing Leominster. My schedule's going to be so much more in control. We don't find out if we're in session until the Friday of the week before, so we really don't know what our schedule's going to look like. For sure, we plan Tuesdays and Wednesdays in Boston to kind of plan to be there for session. And then we try to do Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays in the district. That doesn't work all the time. But going to briefings, going to community meetings, having our office hours, having meetings with constituents, working on our legislation, meeting with colleagues. The balancing the schedule and making sure that it's reasonable between night events and weekend events and giving some time for my family and friends. They understand that like this is new and I'm getting my feet on the ground, so that I might be a little more busy just because there's so much to learn.
And then you can't forget about the weekend events, the festivals, the holidays. So I mean, this weekend is a long weekend, Martin Luther King Day, but you have events on Monday.
Yes.
So not everybody necessarily understands it's a full-time job, but more than full-time. It's a 24/7.
Yeah, and checking out. I mean, usually at night I'm kind of catching up on emails and making sure I got through emails. I check most of my emails. The only time Taylor's allowed to go on my email is if I fall really far behind, if we had a really busy week, to kind of prioritize what I need to respond to.
So in the little bit of time that we have left, what's one thing about the job that took you by surprise, something that you never necessarily thought that you could do in your capacity as state representative?
Hang out with Clifford the big red dog. So we have a lot of visitors to the State House and a lot of fun things. So I get to visit with pets from the MSPCA, and like there's some really awesome things. We got to tour a movie studio, the Steven Spielberg movie over at the Devons thing. Like there's some parts of my job that are really, really amazing.
So cool.
And super thankful because we have such a diverse, even though we're a small state, we've got a lot of things going on in Massachusetts, and to be able to learn about everything. I sit on 4 committees, so I'm learning about mental health and substance use and recovery, higher education, community development and small businesses, intergovernmental affairs and technology. So that's really amazing. But then just being a resource for folks in Leominster, and there are so many issues that constituents have come to us with that we kind of go, I don't know if this is something I can help you with, but let me see who I can connect you with. And there have been some really amazing issues around housing, around utilities, around insurance, that we just have a better idea and some more resources on who's the right person to connect and other people that we can call to kind of piece together the right place. That I'm really, really thankful to be able to do that. And for the folks who are sitting on hold with mass health or unemployment and are having trouble getting through to those, please call us. Please call us. Our contact information will be on at the end of the show. We have a direct person we can call. I know how stressful that can be to not have those resources available to you, and that you're in a time crunch and you need to pay bills. Like, please let us help try to make that process a little less painful.
Yeah. So any last words or thoughts about this past year and looking forward to the year ahead that you want to inform our voters? We have about 2 minutes. So.
Okay. I'm just really, really excited about the next year. I think we've laid a lot of really good groundwork. I'm thankful for the folks showing up and participating in office hours, community forums. I'm hoping more people reach out. And yeah, I'm looking forward to ending a legislative session and wrapping it up and getting a lot more exciting legislation through. $15 minimum wage, paid family medical leave, healthcare financing are all coming up and are really, really important issues affecting our community at the same time, like continuing to be there to solve constituent issues and find new areas that we didn't know that we could assist and help with. So just looking forward to another awesome year in 2018.
That's awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for hiring me. Second of all, thank you for letting me knock this off my bucket list. I now can say that I have been an interviewer for a TV show, which is great. And thank you for tuning in, and tune into next month's episode coming up.